Hey, what's up guys, back again with another video in the Modding with Fabric series. In this video I'll be showing you guys how to create custom recipes for your mod. So let's just walk up to this campfire here. I'm going to throw on some iron ingots, and what that's going to give me is some nice potatoes. There we go. And now I'm going to go over to this crafting table here. I'm going to create some moonshine, so I'm going to put some sugar cane, going to put some fermented spider eye, and of course we can't forget the water bucket. And there we go, we get 2 moonshine. Nice. So let me drink this up. Gulp, 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 gulp. Pretty cool. And that's exactly the types of things I'm going to be showing you guys how to create in this video. I'll be showing you guys what you need to do to be able to create all types of different recipes for your mod. So that's blasting furnace recipes, regular smelting recipes, crafting table recipes, campfire recipes, all kinds of different recipes within the game. Alright guys, so let's go and get started here. So I have created a new mod project, and I've created a new item within that project without showing you guys, just because you know how to do that at this point if you watched the previous videos. And I went ahead and created a new moonshine item, and so this item can be given to you by either the creative inventory, because I added it to a item group here, or you can get it, or you can give it to yourself in game using the give command. So currently there's no way to actually craft the item or obtain it any other way, okay? One other thing is that within the item class we have a use method that's been overridden from item, and this will just specify what happens when you right click the item or use the item. So it's going to just send you a message, gulp gulp gulp, because you're drinking the moonshine, okay? If you want a refresher on how to create this item and how to add it to your mod, of course watch the previous videos, and the code will be in the description below as well, okay? Also along with that, I've created a texture and added a texture for my moonshine item, so it looks like sort of like a moonshine bottle. I don't know, it just looks like a bottle, so I gave that that's going to be the texture for our item as you saw before. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I also set the name for it, so it's just going to be moonshine. And now let's start with creating a crafting recipe, just a regular crafting table recipe for this item. To do that, you're going to go to resources, not assets, resources right above, right click it and do new directory, and you're going to call this directory data. Okay, and then within the data folder, just like you have for the assets folder, you're going to create another folder inside of that, which is just going to be the mod ID of your mod. Okay, so item-recipes for mine. So right click, new directory, item-recipes. There we go. And then within that folder, you're going to create one more folder, which is just recipes. And this is where all of our recipes are going to go. Okay, recipes. Now let's create our first recipe file. So we're going to right click it, do new file, and now we want to give it a random name. It doesn't actually matter what the name is, but it should be relevant to what you're trying to set a recipe for. So in this case, we want a recipe for our moonshine item, so we're just going to call it moonshine underscore crafting.json. That's the name I want to give it. There we go. So now inside of here, we're going to specify all the details for our crafting recipe, okay? And so the question is, how do we know what to put inside of this file besides watching this tutorial, right? So there's actually great documentation for this. So let me go to my main class here. So I have 2 links here. This is for the list of item IDs, which will be very useful in a second, but you also have a link for the actual type of recipes that we're going to be working with. So let's open this one first and take a look at it. So here on minecraft.fandom.com, you have pretty good documentation on the different types of recipes and different things within Minecraft that will help you along the way for setting these types of things. So we can see here that there's a bunch of different types of recipes. We have blasting recipe, campfire cooking, crafting underscore shaped, shapeless, crafting special for special types of recipes, smelting, smithing, smoking, and stone cutting. So any of those types of things that you may be familiar with, you can create a recipe for those, which is cool. Because I used to think it was just for crafting tables, right? But of course, it's not just for crafting tables, it's for all kinds of things, even smelting and stuff like that, right? But for just a regular crafting recipe, we're going to go to crafting underscore shaped. Okay, so it represents a shaped crafting recipe in a crafting table. An unshaped crafting recipe would just be adding the items in any sort of pattern within the recipe, and it should create the item. So it doesn't matter the configuration of how you put the items whenever you're crafting it, as long as you have all the items there, okay? So this here is what you have to pay attention to. It looks a little weird, you're looking at it for the first time perhaps, but this will essentially tell you the format of the JSON file so that you can specify how the recipe is going to be, okay? So this is what you want to pay attention to. Open this one up as well. So let's just go and put this side by side so we can work with it. So since this is a JSON file, we want to make it as a JSON object, so open that up. If you're not familiar with JSON, I recommend you just Google it. It's a pretty simple format. I think I told you that already, but it's a pretty simple format for text files, okay? So just look it up, it's pretty easy, you don't have to really learn that much. That's just a format for a text file, okay? So if you look on the right here, the first thing that we need is a type, and the type is just gonna simply be the type of recipe. In this case, it's gonna be crafting_shaped, okay? So here we're gonna go back to here and do type, and we're gonna set that to a string, crafting_shaped, just like that, okay? And the next thing is a group, a string identifier used to group multiple recipes together in the recipe book. We don't really need this one, this is optional, so we can skip that one, okay? The next one is pretty important, it's gonna be the pattern. So pattern. So for the pattern, it's saying a list of single character keys used to describe a pattern for shapes crafting. Each row in the crafting grid is one string in this list containing 3 or less keys. All strings in this list need to have the same amount of keys. A space can be used to indicate an empty spot. So this may be a little confusing, but let me show you exactly what I mean. So we're going to open this up. It's going to be an array, a list, right? And so we're going to have 3 different lines of strings. 1, 2, 3. And then each of the strings is going to have 3 characters. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if we go back to our game now, let me show you what this corresponds to. So if we just get a crafting table, put it right here, we open this up, we can see that it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So here you're actually going to specify the pattern that goes into this crafting table here, okay? So I'll show you how to do that in 1 second, but first let's skip this one. So put a comma, press enter, and now the next thing we need is the key. All keys used for this shaped crafting recipe. So this one's going to be an object. So we're going to do key, colon, and we're going to open this up because it's an object. And then here we're going to put as many keys as we need for this crafting recipe. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some stuff here, and then I'll explain it after because it's going to be confusing if I explain it along the way. So I'm just going to copy and paste this here. Boom. And so I have 3 keys. I have S, W, and F. And S corresponds to the item of Minecraft sugarcane. W corresponds to the item of Minecraft water bucket, and F corresponds to the item of a fermented spider eye. And all 3 of these are the ones that I showed you in the introduction to this video for how to craft this recipe, okay? So what we do with these letters here is we put them in the pattern. So that will specify where these items go to be able to craft this recipe, okay? So if we do something like S in the middle, S in the middle, and then S in the middle, keep in mind, it still has to be 3 characters each for each string, okay? So 1, 2, 3. So S corresponds to sugarcane, right? So this means that if this is our crafting recipe, to craft that recipe, we would simply do this. Boom, boom, boom. And that would be our recipe. So S, 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 and S corresponds to sugarcane, okay? That's exactly how it works. Nothing, it's really simple, okay? So if we change this up a little bit, we do S on the sides. There we go. So this would correspond to something like this. That would be S, 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 and then every other thing that's blank or a space here, it's going to be a blank space within the crafting recipe itself, okay? So if we're going to finish this here, we're going to set the middle one to W, which corresponds to a water bucket, and then the other ones on these corners here are going to be F, which corresponds to the fermented spider eye, okay? So here's our recipe. So this would correspond to, see if you can do it on your own first, but let me just show you what I mean. So that would correspond to a water bucket, sugar canes on the side, and then a fermented spider eye at each of the corners. And that would give us our item, okay? It's not giving it now because I removed the recipe. We're re-adding it now, but that's the recipe that we have right here at the top, okay? That's what that means. So we can see here, if we go back to this documentation here, we can see that for a key, for each key inside of our object here, we need an item or a tag. So an item corresponds to an item ID. And so the question is, how do you get the item ID for an item that you want? Let's say you don't want any of these items, you want some other item. Sometimes they're pretty easy to come up with. It's common sense to come up with what the name could be, but it's also nice to be able to see a list of all the items. So I have a link for you here, so open this up. I'll have a link for that in the description below. But if we go to this link here, we can go to the item section, so show. And here we can see a list of all the items that are in the game. Okay, so this would correspond to anything that you would put here for the item for each key, okay? So for example, if we want to change W from a water bucket to leather horse armor, we'd simply copy this ID and then put it there, okay? It's really that simple. And there's also tags, but I'm not really going to show that in this video. It's just another way of specifying items in the game, okay? You can check the documentation if you want to see more about that. But if we go to the end now, we can see that we need one more thing. So the output item of the recipe, and this one's going to be another object, so recipe. Open that up, put a curly brackets, put some curly brackets because it's an object. And the first thing we need is a optional field. It's a count. So this will be the amount of item that is given to you. So when you craft the recipe, it'll give you by default just one of the items, right? But you can specify more than one if you want to. So we're going to set count equal to 2, just so you can see, for example. The next thing you need is the item itself. So we're going to do item, colon, and then now we're going to specify the item. And just like before, we're going to give it an item ID, except that this item is not an item from Minecraft itself, it's an item from our custom mod, okay? So to specify our custom item, we're going to do item-recipes, which is our mod ID, item-recipes, colon, and then moonshine, which is our item name. So this is coming directly from here, down here, where you specify item recipes and then moonshine. That's your item identifier that you set when you register the item, okay? Pretty cool. Hopefully that makes sense for you. And of course, if you want to use something that's already in the game, you can just change that to Minecraft colon and then whatever the item ID is, okay? And that's actually all we need for a shaped crafting recipe. So just the normal crafting recipe. We need a type, a pattern, some keys for the pattern, and then we need the recipe itself, the output of the recipe rather, so the count and then the item that it's going to give you. So that's all you need. You don't need to register anything after that. You can simply restart or start your client, and it should be in the game now. And if there's any issues with the recipe that you specified here, it'll tell you in the console. It should give you an error with what the problem is, okay? I had that issue myself. So for example, I had some keys here that I was not using in the pattern. So it actually gave an error into the console so you can see why that's happening or why the error was happening. Anyway, we are back. So let's go ahead and test out our recipe that we just created. So we're going to go here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Water bucket, fermented spider eye, and nothing happened. Okay, that's not good. So let's go back to our console like I said before, and let's see if there's any exceptions or anything like that. Looks like there is. So it says parsing error, loading recipe, moonshine crafting. Okay, missing results, expected to find a JSON object. Interesting. I wonder why that is. Oh, it looks like we made a mistake here. So hopefully you guys caught this, but instead of recipe, it's supposed to be results, right? So if we go back to our documentation, we can see that it actually said results and I just mistyped it, okay? So let me go ahead and restart this and we'll try again. Okay, we're back, so we're gonna go back here. Boom. Let's see if it works now. And boom, we get our moonshine, but we get 2 of them as you can see because we specified in the recipe for the result to be a count of 2. So that's what that refers to. So we can drink from them by holding right click and it says gulp, gulp, gulp. Pretty cool, right? And there we go. That's how you can create a basic custom crafting recipe for crafting tables in your mod. Let me show you guys now how you can use the documentation to learn how to create other sorts of recipes for your mod. So let's go ahead and try and make a blasting recipe here for this blast furnace. So we want to make it so that it produces some moonshine as we see here. So this one's actually pretty easy compared to the crafting recipe because it's just one thing into it and then you need something to light it, right? But what we want to do now is create a new recipe file. So right click, new file, and we're going to call it moonshine underscore, and then whatever you want to give it to identify it. So like blasting.json, just to distinguish between the two, right? So this one's going to be very similar. Let's go back up to the top here and find the blasting section. So it's the first one. So blasting. So we know automatically that's going to be our type. So type is going to be blasting. Okay. And then let's open this up here. So the first thing that we need for the blasting recipe is an ingredient. So that's either going to be a single ingredient with just one item specified or a list of ingredients for the blasting recipe, okay? But let's just keep it simple and do one thing, okay? And although you can only provide one item at a time into a blasting furnace, I think the list is because you may want to have multiple items that can create the item that's outputted from that recipe. So instead of creating like 5 different JSON files, you can just simply put a list of items that would produce that item, okay, if that makes sense. So anyway, let's do ingredient now. So ingredient, open that up. It's going to be actually an object. Sometimes it's hard to tell when you need to provide an object or just like a value, but generally speaking, when it's more than one thing in the value, you can assume it's an object, okay? Either an object or a list, but if it's a list, it should specify that it's a list. And so what we need for this is an item, so item, and then we're going to give it a item ID. And for this one, we're just going to set Minecraft : water bucket. So we're going to make it so that when we put a water bucket into a blasting furnace and then, blast it or whatever, it smelts into our moonshine item that we have. So the next thing that we need is a result. And this is just one thing. It's just an item ID. So it's not going to be an object this time. Okay. So result, not recipe. And we're going to do our custom thing. So item-recipes and then moonshine. There we go. Then now the next thing is the experience. So the output experience of the recipe. So experience. And you can play with this value. For some reason, I haven't really had luck with getting it to actually give me the experience, but maybe I'm doing it wrong. So set that to whatever value you want to do and just play around with it, okay? And then the next thing at the end is optional. This is the cooking time. So this is an optional value that specifies how long the recipe or the item in the blasting furnace will need to finish cooking, right? So by default, it's just going to be 5 seconds or 100 ticks. So Minecraft uses a measurement of time called ticks, and so 20 ticks is equal to 1 second. That's just something that you want to remember always, okay? 20 ticks is 1 second, so 100 ticks is 5 seconds. So for the optional cooking time thing, if you want to specify that, we can do cooking time. And let's say that we want the item to cook really fast. Let's say it takes like 2 seconds. We can set it to 40 because 1 second is 20 ticks. So 2 seconds is 40 ticks. All right. Oh, and this is going to be a number usually. So just do 40 right there. I don't know if it matters if it's a string or a number, but you can find out if you want to. But anyway, let's go and test this out now. So this should be all we need for our blasting furnace recipe. It's pretty simple compared to the other one, I would say, right? Because we don't need a whole pattern and keys and all that fun stuff. But yeah, that's all you need. So let's go ahead and restart this and see if it works. All right, we are back in game now. So let's go to our blasting furnace that we have here. Let's get a water bucket first, actually. So boom. And then we're going to put this water bucket here. And now it's cooking. 1, 2. That was about 2 seconds. And now we have our moonshine. There we go. So awesome. And that's how you can create a custom blasting furnace recipe. Of course, there's like 9 or 10 different types of recipes that you can create. But one more that I'm going to show you is the campfire recipe, which is, I didn't even know you could cook stuff on a campfire because I haven't been playing Minecraft as much recently. But what you can do here is you can put something like meat. Oh, where's the food? Let's put like some raw rabbit, and we can put the rabbit on the campfire. And then when it's done cooking, it'll like pop off. I didn't know that was a thing. I'm sure all of you guys already know that, but pretty cool. So what we can do is actually make a custom recipe for this campfire so that whatever item we put on it, we can have it turn into something when it's done cooking. Pretty cool, right? So here it is right here, campfire cooking. Let's open this up. And so the type is just going to be campfire cooking. Let's go ahead and create a new file for that. So new file, moonshine campfire.json. Bada bing, bada boom. And then we want to open that up because it's a JSON object. The type will be campfire underscore cooking. And this looks to be pretty much the exact same thing as our blasting furnace recipe because they are doing pretty much the exact same thing. So we're going to specify an ingredient or a list of ingredients. So ingredients, ingredient. So we're going to say item, and we're going to say Minecraft iron ingot. Let's make it so that a iron ingot turns into a potato, something silly like that, right? Just to prove that it works. So the result is going to be, Minecraft potato. And then the experience, we're not going to set, well, we have to set an experience. So experience, we're going to set to something small like 0.1. And then we're going to leave the cooking time unset. We're just going to let it do the default, which is 5 seconds. So let's go ahead and test this out. Okay, we're back in the server. Let's go ahead and test out and see if we can cook our iron ingots. Throw them on the grill, and let's see if they cook and turn into potatoes. There we go. We got our potatoes. It's always good you can turn your iron into food in case you get hungry after a long day at the mines. But there you go. That's how you can create a custom campfire recipe, and that's the basic idea of how you can create any type of recipe with your fabric mods. This is one of those things where like I'm not going to show you how to do all the different types of recipes, but if you just follow the documentation like I was doing in the video, you should have good luck being able to do any of the recipes that you need to do, okay? But if you have any questions or anything like that, leave a comment or join our Discord server and we can for sure help you out with any problems you might have, okay? But yeah, hopefully you learned a lot in this episode. Stay tuned for next episode. We're going to see how to create custom blocks within the game, all right? One other thing I want to note is when I was creating this texture for this item that I have in my game, this texture was taken from a really cool repository. So it's this one here. That's just called Unused Textures. I will leave a link for this in the description below, but basically it gives you a bunch of textures for different things that you can use within your mod. So you can use these within the mods that you create if you want to, but make sure that you heed this license that is provided in the repository as well. This is very important so you understand what you can and cannot do whenever using this this thing that's provided to you for free. But within it you get really cool textures for items, for GUI stuff, for fluids, for blocks. So I'm going to be definitely using these in a lot of my tutorials now. So this is where I found the texture for my moonshine item, okay? And so I recommend using this yourself, and I'll again have a link for this in the description below. Alright, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. In the description below, I'll leave a link to the code for this episode so you can check it out. You can bookmark it, come back to it later. If you forget any concepts or you just want to review the concepts I taught in this video, I'll mark everything up with comments so you can come back and read the code without having to rewatch the video, although your reviews are greatly appreciated. So yeah, I'll leave a link for that in the description below, so make sure to check it out. And another thing is I'll leave a link to our Discord server. It's a big community for programmers, so you can ask for help on your programming projects if you're stuck on something, or maybe you can get some new friends. If you don't have any friends, there's lots of people here. It's growing really fast. You can find lots of people who are passionate about the same things as you. For example, if you like Minecraft Spigot development, you can find lots of people who like that. If you like C++, if you like Java, if you like web development, it's a really, really big programming community. So feel free to join. There's a link for that in the description below. And the last thing I want to tell you is that if you want to support this channel, you can click the join button below this video, and you can join this channel as a member for as low as 99 cents a month, and you can cancel at any time. You get some cool perks like early access to all of my new videos, a cool rank on my Discord server like you see right here on the side, YouTube members, and also you get to see yourself on the screen like you see right now. So if that sounds cool to you, feel free to join. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. I really just appreciate you watching the video anyway. And thank you. Thanks a lot. And that's it. So if you like this video, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe. And peace.